ex-U.S. Air Force colonel testified that extraterrestrials do not allow nuclear weapons in space. Whatever the mysterious lights in the sky were, they seem to have an interest in our nukes, he said. During the Cold War, the United States conducted the largest nuclear test in outer space, 400 kilometers above the northern Pacific Ocean. The results were devastating. More such testing would have destroyed Earth's magnetic field, and that's why outer space nuclear testing was banned. Moreover, some accounts of the U.S. military personnel, including NASA astronauts, convey that the extraterrestrials were behind the nuclear missile testing in outer space, and they even put surveillance on the nuclear facilities on Earth. In the Sirius documentary, hosted by ufologist Stephen Greer, U.S. Air Force retired Colonel Ross Didrikson testified that he observed UFOs over the nuclear facilities in which he was assigned. Besides, he said the extraterrestrials were not allowing nuclear weapons in space. They stopped the nuclear missile that was sent to detonate on the lunar surface. The U.S. was in the urge to demonstrate its powers to the Soviets. Colonel Didrikson was assigned to the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. A long service with the Energy Commission between 1950 and 1958 included contract administration duties at Nevada test sites, Pacific nuclear test areas west of Hawaii, nuclear weapon manufacturing and quality assurance in Albuquerque, and inspection of nuclear and non-nuclear facilities throughout the country. He served with the 5th Air Force in Japan, and later as a ranking colonel, officer in charge of the Pacific Unified Command TM's Alternate Command and Control Center in Hawaii. In 1962, he was transferred and served as deputy for material for the 832nd Air Division at Cannon Air Force Base, Clovis, New Mexico, and he retired from the U.S. Air Force in 1964. A couple of nuclear weapons that were sent to space were destroyed by the extraterrestrials, the colonel said. He said, our government sent nuclear weapons for the explosion on the moon surface. It was intended to, as I understand, assess some scientific data and reactions and so forth. The idea of an explosion in space by any Earth government was not acceptable to the extraterrestrials, and that has been demonstrated over and over, the colonel said. He's one of hundreds of military whistleblowers with verified backgrounds to have been brought forth by Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project. His testimony about UFOs, specifically about UFOs and nuclear weapons, can be corroborated by a wealth of information and evidence that's now available within the public domain. UFOs shot down missile in 1964. For 18 years, Robert Jacobs had been participating in the official United States government-ordered UFO cover-up. He claimed that he had been ridiculed by his colleagues for writing about his cover-up that appeared in the National Enquirer. The cover-up was about the UFO shooting down one of the ballistic missiles back in 1964 in Big Sur, California. Retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Robert Jacobs had been an officer in charge of optical instrumentation in the 13969 Photo Squadron at Vandenberg from 1963 to 66. His job was to establish a long-range tracking site at Big Sur, California. Those days, ballistic missiles used to blow upon launch, and Dr. Jacobs' duty was to determine the reason behind every missile failure at the Western Test Range. As the missiles had to carry a nuclear weapon to a specific target, they were monitoring the dummy warhead to find the reason behind their blow. Dr. Jacobs recalled that the UFO incident had most probably been associated with the launch of an Atlas missile happening either September 2nd, 3rd, 15th or 15th in 1964. Jacobs explained, because of the length of the telescope as the Atlas missile entered the frame, we could see the whole third stage, which has two rocket nozzles, like this and one in the center, or gimbaled one in the center, fill in our frame from 100 and about 160 miles. It was pretty exciting optics. We watched that stage burn out. We watched the second stage burn out. We watched the third stage burn out. And into the frame came something else. It flew into the frame. and according to him, the Warhead was approached by a UFO. It fired a beam of light at it from different directions. Subsequently, the Warhead malfunctioned and tumbled out of suborbit hundreds of miles short of its target. This unidentified flying thing had apparently shot down an American dummy atomic warhead, Jacobs said. Nuclear-adjacent sightings go back decades, said Robert Hastings, a UFO researcher and author of the book UFOs and Nukes, Extraordinary Encounters at Nuclear Weapon Sites. Hastings said he interviewed more than 160 veterans who witnessed strange things in the skies around nuclear sites. The UFO Deactivating Maelstrom Air Force Base nuke system. Former U.S. Air Force Captain Robert Salas mentioned an incident that took place on March 16, 1967. He was at Maelstrom Air Force Base in Montana in an underground capsule when he was told that the security forces had that a red glowing object had been seen at the front gate of the base. One of the airmen was enjoying the clear morning sky when suddenly a star appeared moving in a zigzag manner. Then another light came. He called the Flight Security Controller, FSC, and they both watched the movement of those strange lights. They reported to Salas and he asked them to keep an eye on those lights. Firstly, it did not concern Salas because he thought that his colleagues were possibly joking. In some time he was called by the controller again, and he, the FSC, was frightened and shouting. They were watching a UFO hovering outside the front gate. I can't really describe it. It's glowing red. What are we supposed to do? Make sure the site is secure and I'll phone the command post, sir. Sir, I have to go now. One of the guys just got injured, he said. After that, Salas lost communication with the airmen and security guard. He immediately contacted his commander, Lieutenant Fred Mewald, who was sleeping at the time. While he was on call with Lieutenant Mewald, a security alarm rang indicating the problem within the missile system. He checked the matter and found there was a no-go light on and 2 red security lights were lit. He was just trying to understand what went wrong. Consecutively, several alarms went off and they lost entire flight of 10 ICBMs and a no-go inoperable condition. An astronaut leaked email. In 2016, WikiLeaks revealed thousands of emails that were allegedly linked to Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman John Podesta. The emails unfolded information shared with Podesta about UFOs and ETs. In 2015, Podesta received emails from Mitchell and expressed his concern about the weaponization of space and its impact on extraterrestrial intelligence, ETI. Despite the fact that aliens might be violent as shown in various sci-fi films, the notable astronaut called them non-violent in an email. In January 2015, he sent an email to Podesta asking him to have an urgent meeting to discuss disclosure and zero-point energy, ZPE. He was concerned about the peace in space. And Mitchell wrote, "My Catholic colleague Terry Mansfield will be there too to bring us up to date on the Vatican's awareness of extraterrestrial intelligence. Another colleague is working on a new space treaty, citing involvement with Russia and China. However, with Russia's extreme interference in Ukraine, I believe we must pursue another route for peace in space and CPE on Earth, zero-point energy on Earth." Mitchell emailed Podesta again September 18, 2015, and he wrote, "Because the war in space race is heating up, I felt you should be aware of several factors as you and I schedule our Skype talk. Remember, our nonviolent ETA from the contiguous universe are helping us bring zero-point energy to Earth. They will not tolerate any forms of military violence on Earth or in space," he said. Well, it's still bad on Earth. It was confirmed by one of Mitchell's collaborators that the meeting between Podesta and him never took place. During the 2016 election campaign, Podesta declared he would convince Clinton to declassify as many UFO files as possible. In 2014, he tweeted that his biggest failure during the Obama administration was not to ask them for the release of UFO files. Apollo astronaut Edgar Mitchell died in 2016, but for his entire life, he was a pacifist and a promoter of extraterrestrial intelligence reality. According to him, zero-point energy is the ultimate energy source from which all matter is derived. That's exactly what Nicholas Tesla was telling us, wasn't it? And this is on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.